Chapter 14, The Pain and the Blood and the Gore. 4 blocks away, Billy suddenly found himself in a brightly lit butcher shop, jostled by a crowd of enormous pigeon-breasted middle-aged women, shouting to make himself heard over the din of their chatter and the roars of butchers ordering about the weasel-faced boys who were lugging haunches and tubs of meat in and out of the refrigerator room in the rear. Then a butcher saw Billy jumping among the women and asked for his order, and Billy gave it. And suddenly he was shoved up close to the chopping block, and the butcher slapped down 10 black worms as big as snakes, and Billy tried to say they were too big, he'd choke on them, but the butcher couldn't hear him over the thumps of his cleaver and the din of the women and the hoarse shouts of the other butchers. And before Billy knew what was happening, he was seated at a table in Longchamp's restaurant on Times Square in New York City with a large napkin tied under his chin, and a waiter was uncovering a platter on which lay one of the huge black worms, coiled snakily, a red nose wobbling in the center of its coil. "How can I ever finish it?" said Billy, and cut into a mammoth coil. Steaming pink juice flooded out. Billy ate and ate and ate and ate, and then looked, and he must have eaten more than that. And then he looked again, and there was no hole at all. He had eaten and eaten and eaten nothing at all. And then he felt something cold on his ankles and looked under the tablecloth, and there were 2 more of the huge worms wound around and around his ankles. And then he felt something weighing down his arm, and he looked, and there was another worm wound around his arm, glaring hungrily at him with its bloodshot eyes. And from everywhere in the vast room, winding between the tables, waiters approached carrying huge silver serving platters. Billy opened his eyes. For the first moment, in the moonlight flooding his bedroom, his 2 bare feet, sticking up out of the bottom of the covers, looked like 2 huge white worms' heads. And then he realized that he had been dreaming and sank back onto his pillow, the nightmare melting away. There were no huge worms as big as pythons. He was home in bed. His parents were asleep in the next room. His stomach rumbled. But suppose Joe hadn't been lying. The hair stood up on the back of his neck. Or suppose Joe had made it all up, but had been right anyway, without knowing it. A shutter banged. Billy glanced out the window and saw the moon riding among the tossing leaves. His stomach rumbled and gurgled. He groaned. Suppose he was dying. He'd heard of people waking up in the middle of the night with pains in their stomachs, and then, as the windows turned gray in the dawn, they died. Toadstools, soured lobster, tainted pork. That was a pain. He clutched his stomach, and groaning, half fell, half staggered out of bed and hobbled toward the door, bent double. Maybe there was an antidote. He whimpered. It didn't hurt a lot, but nothing ever did to begin with, did it? Chapter 15, 3:15 a.m. His mother reached out and switched on the light. What kind of pain, Billy? He stood beside the bed, clutching his stomach. In my stomach. Oh, there it is again. There it goes again, I think. Did you eat something before bed? She was pulling on her bathrobe. John. She shook her husband's shoulder. He mumbled sleepily. Did you eat candy or something before bed, Billy? Worms, groaned Billy. Worms? John! Billy, what kind of worms? Regular worms, not crawlers. She felt his forehead, lifted his chin to look in his face. You don't have a temperature. How many worms did you eat? 5, 2 boiled and 3 fried, with ketchup, mustard, horseradish, salt, pepper, butter, to make them taste better. Fried? Ketchup? Taste better? John, wake up! I had this bet with Alan. Oh, he groaned again. Take your hands away. Where does it hurt now? Show me. It doesn't really hurt so much now. It's just rumbling and gurgling, something awful. Then why are you groaning? Asked his father, sitting up. Because I'm afraid it's going to start hurting. Do you think I'm going to die, Daddy? Worms? His father asked. Ordinary worms? Earthworms? Billy nodded. And how many did you eat this evening? One this afternoon. I've eaten one every day for the last 5 days. But they weren't little ones. They were night crawlers. Huge ones, as big as snakes almost. His father lay back down, pulling the covers up around his shoulders. Don't worry, eating one night crawler a day for 6 weeks wouldn't hurt you. Go back to bed. It's probably all the ketchup and mustard that's upsetting your stomach. Drink a glass of warm water. John, are you sure? Said Billy's mother. It doesn't seem to me that worms could be a very healthy thing to eat. John? His father snuggled deeper into the covers. I didn't say eating worms would turn him into an all-American fullback. I just said they wouldn't hurt him. Now let's go to sleep. Billy's mother glanced at Billy, shivering beside the bed in bare feet and pajamas, and then shook her head again. John, wake up. I think you should call Dr. McGrath. You don't really know whether or not eating worms is harmful. I know you don't. Billy's father groaned and sat up. Now look, I'm not going to call Dr. McGrath at 3:30 in the morning to ask if it's all right for my son to eat worms. That's flat. Secondly, I do know that Billy's not going to die before morning. If worms were poisonous, which they're not, he would have been laid up before this. Billy, you've been eating worms for 5 days? Billy nodded. All right. And thirdly, I ate a live crayfish when I was in college and have suffered no discernible ill effects. And fourthly, I'm going to sleep. Billy's mother slipped her feet into her slippers, stood up, and buttoned her bathrobe. Then leaned over the bed and shook her husband's shoulder. John, I won't be able to sleep until you call. John, what about tapeworms or a fungus? John, wake up. Billy, you go back to bed. Your father will call Dr. McGrath. John? Billy lay in bed listening to his mother and father arguing in their bedroom. He could only make out a word here and there, usually when his father started to shout, only to be shushed immediately by his mother. Billy got sleepier and sleepier. His stomach had stopped rumbling and gurgling. It was warm and cozy under the covers after standing on the cold floor in his bare feet. Then, in the midst of a foggy drowse, he heard someone dialing the phone in the hall outside his parents' bedroom, and his father say, "Poison control," and explain the case. Then there was a silence. Billy heard the Billy heard the water running in the bathroom. And then his father said, "You're sure? These weren't little ones. These were night crawlers." Pause. "And no long-range ill effects?" Pause. His father laughed. "A bet, I think." And the next thing Billy knew, sunlight was streaming through his window, and Emily was skipping down the hall past his door singing, "Half a pound of tuppenny rice, half a pound of treacle, that's the way the money goes." His father shouted down the stairs, "Helen, do you know where my green tie with the red stripes is?" Chapter 16, The Sixth Worm. Billy gulped it triumphantly, serene, untroubled. By the door, Alan glowered, his mind racing. He's gonna do it. He'll win. What do I do? $50. Joe sat on an overturned pile, whistling, gazing carelessly about, sneaking a glance now and then at Billy. What had gone wrong? Why hadn't he cracked? Outside, Tom lurked sheepishly in the bushes behind the stone wall, peering at the barn. Chapter 17, The Seventh Worm. Chapter 17, The Seventh Worm. Billy ate it offhand, sideways, reading a comic book. Alan and Joe squatted gloomily in the barn door, watching him. As Billy was dabbing horseradish sauce on the last bite, Tom's head appeared in a corner of the grimy window. He waved tentatively at Billy. Ignoring him, Billy gulped down the last bite, wiped his mouth, and tucking his comic book under his arm, strolled airily out of the barn, remarking over his shoulder, "See you tomorrow, fellas." Chapter 18, The Eighth Worm. "Where's Joe?" asked Billy, spreading mustard spreading mustard down the length of the fried worm. "He wouldn't come." said Alan sullenly. "It's no fair putting on that much mustard." "Ha ha," said Billy. "Who says? I can put as much mustard, or I can put on as much as I like of whatever I like, and you know it. Why wouldn't he come?" "How should I know?" Billy swooshed a bit of worm around in ketchup and horseradish sauce. I know why he didn't come." "Yeah, you're so smart. Big deal." Alan couldn't get the $50 out of his head. What was his father going to say when he told him he'd bet $50 and lost? Jeez, he gnawed at his thumbnail. He wouldn't come because he knows I've won. He knows I could eat 20 worms if I had to. Yeah? Yeah? Well, you ain't won yet. There's still 7 to go. You act so big. Wait till you begin to feel it in your stomach. You think you know everything. Yeah, you'll see. You wait. "Ha ha," said Billy. "You think you can scare me talking like that? Phooey." He strolled past Alan out into the sunlight. "Hi," said Tom, popping up from behind a barrel. "Psst," said Tom disdainfully and walked on. Chapter 19, The Ninth Worm. "That's not a worm," yelled Billy. "How can it be a worm? Geez, it must be 2 feet long." "It's a worm," said Alan stubbornly. "It's just like all the others. I rolled it in cornmeal and fried it." "It's over 2 feet long," screeched Billy. He knew something was up. Otherwise, Joe wouldn't have come back, slouching in the doorway, pretending to be gazing up at the clouds. But Billy noticed he kept glancing at Alan and him, and Tom was peering in the window again. Something was up. "Look," said Alan, "I'll cut it up. You can see for yourself it's a worm. There, see? Come on, eat up. We ain't got all day. Joe and me have to go to Shushan with his father." Billy poked at the huge worm with his fork. Something sure was up. He ate the piece Alan had cut, looking the rest of the worm over carefully as he chewed it. He ate another bite. Phew! He'd forgotten to dip it in horseradish sauce. Come on, said Alan. "Yeah," said Joe. "Eat up, Billy. We gotta go." "I'll never be able to eat the whole thing," thought Billy. "It'd choke me. It's too much yuck at once." "Half," he croaked. "I'll eat half. This is some sort of a ringer. There's never been a worm this long." "Okay," said Alan. "Then the bet's off. Suit yourself. Come on, Joe." He chickened out. "Let's go." All right, said Billy, playing for time. "The whole thing." "You'll make yourself sick," said Alan. He's too anxious, thought Billy. What's going on? "Leave him alone," said Joe. "Let him eat it. It's his stomach." He's trying to cover for Alan, thought Billy. He ate another bite. Then he began to scrape the cornmeal carefully off the worm with his knife. "What are you doing?" said Alan. "I think I'll have it plain today. No cornmeal." "That's not fair. You can't—" "Glue?" screamed Billy all of a sudden. "Glue? You glued 2 night crawlers together? Jeez, you bunch of lousy cheats. Tom, look what they tried to pull. Glue!" Panting, Tom bent over the plate. "You're right. Jeez." Alan kicked a pail clattering against the wall. "I told you it wouldn't work," he screamed at Joe. "All right, so it didn't work. You couldn't think of anything better." "That's cheating," said Billy. "I ought to win right now. You cheated." 15 worms in 15 days, yelled Joe. "You ain't won." "But you cheated," shouted Tom. "So what?" They argued and yelled, striding here and there about the barn, sprawling against posts, flinging up their arms, kicking walls, banging down on a pail or orange crate, and squeezing their heads between their hands. "It doesn't make any difference," Joe yelled at Billy. "It didn't work. You didn't fall for it. If you'd eaten the whole thing and then found out it was 2 worms glued together, then you could have claimed to win because Alan was cheating." "Big mouth!" shouted Alan from the horse stall where he was kicking the slats in. "Who thought it up?" "Not me." "Who cares who thought it up?" shouted Tom. "It's still cheating." A pig looked in at the door and then wandered away. Joe ran out and stuck his head under the faucet by the kitchen steps. A minute later, he came running back, dripping, yelling, "That's not true." "What's not true?" said Billy, turning around from shouting at Alan. "Whatever you said." "What did I say?" It doesn't make any difference. You're a liar and a cheat, and so anything you say isn't true. You're crazy. Even Hitler or Jack the Ripper sometimes said things that were true. It's impossible to lie all the time. Behind them, Tom lay down on his back and said, "Oh." Alan and Joe and Billy turned to look at him. "What's the matter with you?" "Oh." 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 Silence. A bird flew in and then out through a broken window in the loft. "Well," said Billy. "Yeah, I see what you mean." He and Alan and Joe sat down on the overturned orange crates. After a while, Joe said, "Anyway, I was right. If Billy'd eaten it, it would have been cheating. But he didn't, so it's not. The bet's still on." The pig looked in at the door again. "A pig's loose," said Alan. "Look." "Where?" said Billy. "Oh, boy, come on. We gotta catch it." He jumped up. The pig bolted. "Woo-wee!" yelled Billy, dashing out. Tom and Joe and Alan scrambled after him. Chapter 20. Billy's Mother. Billy slumped at the kitchen table on one elbow, pawing in his bowl of Wheaties with a spoon. His mother was washing the breakfast dishes at the sink. "But why isn't it good to eat hot dogs for breakfast? I know nobody does, but why don't they?" "Oh, Billy," said his mother, "stop it. Finish your cereal." "Well, but..." A knock on the screen door. Billy's mother glanced around. "Oh, hello, Alan. Joe. Is your sister better, Joe?" "Yes, thank you." "Billy can't come out until he's finished with his breakfast. Would you like to wait for him on the front porch?" "We came to see you, Miss Forrester." "Oh, well, come in." "Miss Forrester," said Joe as Alan shut the door carefully behind them. "I don't know if you know about it already, but see, about a week ago, Alan made this bet with Billy about eating worms. If Billy could eat 15 worms, one each day for 15 days, then..." "Billy, you're not still eating them!" Billy stuffed a spoonful of Wheaties into his mouth. "Not just worms, Mom. I've been eating lots of other stuff, too. Look at me. I'm healthy. Dr. McGrath told you the worms wouldn't hurt me." "But, Billy, Dr. McGrath didn't think you were going to keep on eating worms." Joe nudged Alan and grinned. "Oh, Mom, if 5 worms wouldn't hurt me, a few more won't either." "They're little worms. Besides, it's a bet. They're big worms, Miss Forrester," said Joe, looking virtuous. "We won't lie to you. My mother told me never to tell a lie." "Manure," said Billy. "Mom, it's a bet. I told you, if I win, Alan's got to pay me $50. $50? Young man, don't you move from that chair." She went off into the front hall. "Thanks," whispered Billy, "but you'll see, it won't work." Alan and Joe gazed nonchalantly at the ceiling. Billy's mother's voice came from the front hall. "Dr. McGrath, I'm awfully sorry to bother you again. It's such a ridiculous matter, but since I spoke to you, Billy has continued to eat worms." Pause. No, it's nothing like that. He's acting perfectly normal otherwise. It seems he's made a bet with some other boys." Pause. "One every day. He has to eat 15 to win his bet." Pause. "Oh, thank you, Dr. McGrath. I'm so sorry to bother." She returned to the kitchen. "But no more bets after this one, Billy. Alan and Joe, don't you egg him on anymore. He's far too eager to do wild things." Billy yucked silently at Joe and Alan. Alan made a rude gesture at him. "Miss Forrester," said Joe, "what we really came about is that Alan and me are going up to Lake Lauderdale today with my father to fish, and we won't be back until tomorrow night. So we wondered if you'd make sure Billy eats the worms today and tomorrow. If not, it's not that we don't trust Billy, Miss Forrester." "No," said Billy's mother, smiling. "But it's always better if there's a referee, like Mr. Simmons says at school, to save arguments and hard feelings. We brought the 2 worms." He held up a paper bag. "We boiled them already, so you can just keep them in the refrigerator." "Well," said Billy's mother, "this is quite a responsibility. Are you sure I'll be neutral enough? I am his mother." "Yeah, we thought about that," said Joe, "but we figured, well, you're usually pretty fair, and besides, parents almost never cheat kids. Never cheat kids if it's something between kids. They're usually pretty fair until they get into it." Billy's mother laughed. "And how does he eat them? Just cold boiled?" "Well, we've been frying them, Miss Forrester. We roll them in cornmeal and then fry them like a fish. But he can do whatever he wants, except that Alan and me have decided it's not fair to make soup out of them or chop them up like hash or a chicken salad sandwich. Hold on.
Wait, you didn't read.
I know, I'm not done. Sorry, I had an alert pop up on my computer. He's got to finish them piece by piece. Who said? Yelled Billy. When was that ever in the rules? We said, shouted Alan. Billy jumped up, kicking his chair over. Well, then I win, because it's cheating to make up new rules in the middle. Oh, yeah, shouted Alan. Then you lose, because anybody knows it'd be cheating to hash it up. You think you're going to weasel out of it after I've already eaten 9? Who's weaseling? You're cheating. Yeah? Yeah. Boys. Billy, Alan. Silence, please. Now, Billy, I think... No, let me speak first. I do think Alan and Joe are right. It wouldn't be fair to cut the worm up at all. You can just think of some other way of fixing it. Thank you, Joe. She took the paper bag and looked inside. Whew! Billy, are you sure? Mom, you've eaten eels. You ate eels last summer in Long Island. These are just smaller. They're the same thing. Well, she put the bag in the refrigerator. I guess if Dr. McGrath says it's all right. Now, why don't you all go outside? I wouldn't go across the street with those finks, said Billy. They can... Yeah, shouted Alan. Well, who'd want to go anywhere with you either? Yeah, shouted Billy. Boys, cried Miss Forrester. Stop it. All right, Alan and Joe, you had better go. The screen door banged behind them. Poof, said Billy scornfully. Joe's face appeared at the screen. Thanks for saying you'll help out, Miss Forrester.